This is Kat.
And this is Matt.
Welcome to the KatnNat podcast,
where we talk to people from the unified generation
and promote the inclusion revolution. Today we're talking to Dan Smrokowski, a Sargent Shriver International Global Messenger for Special Olympics and host of the Special Chronicles podcast.
Dan is one of our inspirations to make our own podcast about the Special Olympics Unified Generation movement taking place across America.
We first met Dan when he invited us to his show leading up to the 2019 Special Olympics World Games in Abu Dhabi, and were able to meet him in person in the UAE.
We're excited to have him on our show.
How's Georgia doing?
Good.
Good. Your guys' posts are so cute.
Thanks.
Every time I'm like, yeah, look, they're so cute.
I know. I always like it.
All right, shall we get started?
I guess we can.
Yep.
Okay, Dan. So first off, I would like to say that you have inspired Katie and I both to do this podcast. So our first question is, when you founded Special Chronicles in 2008, what motivated you to start your podcast, and what were you hoping to accomplish doing the podcast?
Wow, well, that was 11 years ago now, which hard to believe it's been 11 years since I started Special Chronicles. But I really started first giving speeches as a global messenger here in Illinois. But what I found was that there was a lot of misunderstanding for those of us with disabilities, especially in with podcasts, but also in the mainstream media as well. There really wasn't a lot of understanding. And so by first sharing my story and then interviewing my friends who also compete in Special Olympics, I found that people really got to heal from us and got to more fully understand us and respect us and accept and include us once they got to really heal all our stories.
Yeah, that is so awesome.
Yep, and we love your podcast and hope you keep on doing them.
You've done 347 episodes, right?
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So what's been your favorite interview, or at least one of your favorite, and why?
In the 11 years that you have done the podcast.
Well, besides when you guys will go on, it's hard to kind of pick like one particular guest, but last year during the 50th anniversary for Special Olympics here in Chicago, I had a chance to sit down with Tim Shriver, chairman of Special Olympics, and we actually taped that in the hallway of a hotel. So there was all the CEOs of all the different Special Olympics programs from across the U.S. They were in meetings in this hotel, and so when they were coming out of these different rooms, we were just in the hallway, and so it's set up a table and a couple of chairs, and we had a backdrop. But it was really interesting to hear from Tim on the future of Special Olympics and the inclusion revolution, and talked a little bit about his book, and that was probably one of the best conversations that I've taped over the past now it's 11 years, but last year that would have been 10 years. So that it was a really fascinating conversation, and a lot of people who either listened to that on podcasts or they watched the video on Facebook or on YouTube really got a lot out of that particular episode with Tim.
So cool. Oh,
That's awesome.
yeah, his book is fascinating.
Yeah.
I read it twice, I think. Yeah.
Katie took it up to Seattle with her when we were doing the leadership, youth leadership.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and then you signed it.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It-
Next.
Oh, this one's about Abu Dhabi. So
Yeah.
You want to go?
Yeah. So we met you last year when
Yeah.
when you interviewed us before we went to Abu Dhabi. So for World Games. So what was your most memorable experience attending World Games, Dan? And it can be about the events or just traveling up to United Arab Emirates or
Culture
visiting,
shock.
visiting sites, meeting someone, any culture shock, or whatever you think of.
Well, there was lots of exciting moments from being at the World Games, but couple highlights. And I wrote a blog that Special Olympics North America had posted on Medium.com, I think, that really kind of outlined a little bit more about my experience there. But one of the exciting moments was all of us SSI GMs got to go on stage during the opening ceremonies. So when Tim and a few other speakers were speaking on the stage, not the stage that when everybody walked in, but like there was like a little, I don't know if you guys we remember in that stadium, but like there was a stage kind of like off to the side. So we got to stand on the stage behind the speakers. So that was a pretty
That is really
exciting.
awesome.
That stadium was huge.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it was.
and everyone was just so excited. There was just, oh, that was.
Yeah. Both the opening ceremonies and the closing ceremonies there was just an incredible experience of
I mean,
190 countries all
Yeah.
all coming together and including and accepting each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was just
I mean, we couldn't watch the closing ceremony, but when we saw the opening ceremonies, they were amazing.
Yeah. And like, yeah, just like that. It's like there were no cultural barriers. Everyone was just there to advocate for disability rights.
Yeah.
And, like, it was just so cool.
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, and there was another moment. We had a SSIGM lunch at this restaurant at the hotel where we were staying at, and Tim was there, and the chairman of Coca-Cola was there, and all these celebrity ambassadors were there. Also, like Apollo Ono and Michelle Kwan, and all these, and so we got to speak in front of them, and then the next day I was at the roller skating venue, and I was there with Apollo Ono, and
Yeah.
so Apollo Ono got to teach me how to skate.
Oh,
So that was a pretty like I have never skated before. It was it was a neat experience to be taught by Apollo Ono.
that's so awesome.
So that was
The
just,
interview with him, I listened to that and I was like, that is so cool.
yeah. So exciting to get to talk with him, and we also went on a camel ride at sunset in the desert, and that was it was a pretty bumpy on those camels, but was
Did that.
Yeah.
One of the people that we were with, she did that
Yeah.
too, and she loved it.
yeah. So it was neat to kind of mix some of the culture that was there with the games and being with everyone from all across the globe. Like credentials they had, and like you
Yeah.
trade pins with people. Like at the time, the 2 weeks were over. I think I had pins like all over my entire menu.
That's awesome. All right, so here's our next question. What is the importance of positive representation of people with special needs in the media, and how does stereotyping affect this?
So it's important that we positively kind of share our lives and share the challenges that we have and share the joys that we have. And by people seeing, whether it's through a podcast or a movie or TV show, or when people kind of see it represented positively, then people are more able to really kind of see how they're similar or different than each other. And when there's a negative representation, then it's really can pull into bullying and not a good environment for people of all abilities. So we need to always make sure that within the mainstream media, and whether it's through podcasts or movies or TV, that we can have that positive representation. So we need, and then when it comes to stereotyping, really recognizing that each different disability diagnosis is not the same, but everybody has a different diagnosis, and so there's no, you can't really stereotype one person to one particular disability. So it's important to
having variety and like showing all spectrums of life.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite examples of positive representation in the media of disability?
So some of one is the show Speechless on ABC.
Oh yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite ones. Another one is the show Born This Way.
Yeah.
On A&E. There was a movie that came out a few years ago called Where Hope Grows.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty good one. And then recently, this past month, the Peanut Butter Falcon.
Yeah. There's also another show that's called The Good Doctor, and the doctor in the show like has autism or something too.
Yeah.
But
that's a good one as well.
Yeah, but speaking of the Peanut Butter Falcon, you recently got to speak with the co-writers and the director of the movie for the Peanut Butter Falcon, and the film covers some hard stuff like bullying and the R word.
Mm-hmm.
But this film is really about the shared commonality.
Commonality.
And love. So what was your favorite message from the film?
It was a fantastic movie. If people have not gone to see the Peanut Butter Falcon, I definitely recommend you go find a theater near you to go see it. It's definitely worth watching. It's fun adventure, and I really probably one of the important messages that I enjoyed from this film is that a group of three people becoming friends kind of form a family, and really seeing how when you do that, then you can really recognize that people can share similar abilities and can really help help when you go on a journey or when you go on an adventure. So kind of seeing the love that the three characters, the three main characters in that movie shared, really, I think, kind of gives hope to everybody in our society. It really brings a lot of hope, and it's just a fun adventure to really enjoy. And it was a blast getting to talk with the directors and co-writers of the movie, because they shared a lot of insights into what it was like to film and to work with Zach, and just an incredible film that they were able to produce. And I think it was the first feature-length film, and they actually wrote the script based on Zach's story. So and then they worked with Tim at Special Olympics, and I think they worked with Best Buddies as well to really make sure that they can have a positive story when they go through some of these tough issues that they went through in the story.
Yeah, The Peanut Butter Falcon was a really good movie. I saw it myself. Katie still has yet to see it.
I'm seeing it on Monday with my cousin Mitchell, who has Down syndrome, and when I'm so excited because when we saw the trailer, he just saw it and he goes like, he looks like me, and it's just that little thing that's like
just a little.
Yeah,
it's so important.
It's important that within movies and TV and in the media that we can really see ourselves within different characters. So we need to really. There's not that many movies and TVs out there that represent those of us with disabilities. So we really need to when there's a movie that comes out like The Peanut Butter Falcon, we really need to go and support it to really show other filmmakers that these are stories that need to continue to be told.
This is like, it's becoming a normal thing, and like we can, through publicizing it, we can get more attention and get more films.
Yeah,
absolutely.
When I was little, I really loved Finding Nemo, and when I did see Finding Nemo with my mom and dad, they told me that I said that I said that Nemo has a little arm like me.
Oh, that is so sweet.
And so, like, Nemo had, even though it's an animated film, they like Pixar like really like sort of like did that thing for like representation of like disabilities, because when I looked at Nemo, I instantly thought he has a little arm like me, and and it just stuck to me ever since. So I love Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
It matters.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So you graduated with a BA in journalism and are an award-winning columnist that covers special needs stories. You're an inspiration to us, by the way. And one of the reasons we decided to start our podcast with you.
So, what, in your opinion, makes podcasting different than other media through which Special Olympics tells stories?
Well, the one good thing about podcasting, and there's a couple other athletes that I know that are thinking of starting their own programs they'll also be inspired to start their own podcast programs, which is a pretty cool thing. There's more people out there like yourselves that are starting their own shows. But what really I think is unique about telling stories through podcasts is it's really informal, and it's really just like an informal conversation that you have instead of like on a TV show or on the radio where it's more you've got a script and you've got particular guidelines and stuff to follow. But really what I think is different about telling stories through podcasts is you really get to know people on an informal and I mean, even with having, you could still have a script and notes written out and questions and topics and all that, but it's still kind of a neat thing. And whether it's like a lot of times people listen to podcasts when you're driving in your car or you're exercising and so when it comes to that, it really helps to it's another form that kind of makes it a little bit easier to consume these types of stories, and so that's what's really unique about the podcast. And
yeah, and it's fun.
It's fun too.
And
yeah.
It's live, so we make lots of mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they get to know us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
You want to do this? Okay. So, is there anything that you do want to do that you haven't done yet, Dan?
Well, one of the things, and I've kind of already started this already, but I'd like to write a book. And really have it be more of like a guidebook that kind of based on, since I started Special Chronicles now 11 years ago, and really kind of share different stories that from based on people I've talked to or interviewed, and write it in such a way that people can learn how to have acceptance and joy and inclusion from reading these stories. And I process of still got some work to do on it, but in the process of co-writing it with one of my former special ed teachers from high school that I reconnected with. Her youngest daughter is also a Special Olympics athlete, but we reconnected about 5 years ago at our local summer games, our local state summer games, and so now we're in the process of trying to kind of co-write this book to kind of share these stories based on the podcast interviews that I've done the past 11 years now, and also kind of based on some of the newspaper columns that I've written, whether it's in a local newspaper here in the Chicago Sun-Times or in the 50th anniversary for Special Olympics, they had a book, like a program book thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like tons of information about the history of Special Olympics, and then they had like some particular, like some of the events and stuff that were going on last summer. But then so I had a column in there. So kind of based on some of these different, whether it's in publications like that, or in newspapers, or online, and kind of take some of those stories and kind of go a little bit more into detail and
you
because
have so much content to
yeah
drop.
yeah
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
because like you can listen or read content online, but to have it in a book format, you can reach a whole nother audience that may not consume stuff. Because like, you know, so many people now will consume media online or on your phone or iPad or and that's great, but to have it to kind of share these stories in a book format, I think is something that can really kind of reach new audiences, and that's something that I would like to that's something new that I would like to try to work on the next few years.
Awesome.
Yeah,
We'll totally look out for that.
Yeah.
Be like, Dan, when's your book coming out?
You want to buy it?
Yes. We'll buy every single copy.
Every single copy, yeah.
No, we'll get the signed signature one.
Yeah, the signed one.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. Thank you so much, Dan. It's so great.
Yeah, so, well, how about this one?
Oh, yeah. It's that one.
So, one more question.
One more.
Bonus question.
Bonus questions.
You're a 2018 through 2022 Shriver International Global Messenger. And can you tell us a little bit about what it means to be a part of this exclusive group?
And what, like, your best accomplishment has been so far doing that?
Yes.
So it means a lot to be a Southern Tribal International Global Messenger, or the abbreviation that's a little easier to say is SSIGM. But it's really neat that those 10 of us athlete leaders from across the globe that were selected as international global messengers, named after Tim's dad, Southern Shriver, and we started at the beginning of this year, 2019, and so it kind of doing this 4-year tone, but we really, since the first training that we went to at the Special Olympics headquarters in Washington, D.C., since then, and then through our time in Abu Dhabi at the World Games, we really, all 10 of us, were able to really bond like a family, and it's been an incredible experience to connect with other athlete leaders that also kind of share the same role as spokespeople for the Special Olympics movement, because we all sharing the joy that we have had from being involved in this movement, and we're sharing our stories, and we're emceeing events, we're doing interviews, and it's been an incredible experience to bond with the other SSIGMs, and really we've formed a kind of a nice family together with our mentors as well, and it's just been an incredible experience. And one of the accomplishments that I've had was at the World Games. I was able to speak next to the chairman of Coca-Cola during a luncheon that we had, and also got to co-MC the Young Athletes event, which was an incredible experience, and so and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more adventures the next few years during this term, and I started a kind of separate email newsletter for my SSIGM journal that people can subscribe to get updates. Whenever I like kind of to get updates on the various adventures, or there's a speech or an interview that I'll do as an SSIGM, that I'll kind of put it all in one place to kind of keep a journal of sharing these adventures, because it was a big honor to get selected at the end of last, I think almost about a year ago was when I got selected as an SSIGM, and to kind of be part of this family of Southern Tribal International Global Messengers is an incredible experience that we're all able to really encourage people to choose to include us, not in making an impact, not just in competing in sports, but making an impact beyond sport in our everyday lives as well.
Yeah, that's a really great thing. You guys are doing that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been tons of fun talking with you guys on the show, and I wish you guys a lot of luck with your podcast.
Thank you.
We have a lot to live up to.
What inspired us to do is we are loving it.
Yeah, it's tons of fun to talk with various people. That's
You're
part
like
of this movement.
fourth
Yeah.
episode.
Our fourth. Yeah, it is our fourth. Isn't
Well,
it?
awesome.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at KatnNat Podcast. Also, follow our private accounts at Katie M. Hutt and Nat Squeaks. We out.